Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the premier destination for sophisticated celebrity analysis. Welcome to Turkish series stars. In a world that shouts to be heard, we lean in to hear the quiet heartbeat beneath the noise. In an industry addicted to scandal, we search for the truth that shows itself in glances, gestures, and choices made when no one is supposed to be watching. Tonight, our lens turns to a pair who have built an impenetrable fortress of calm around a very public love, two names whose chemistry once set screens blazing and whose silence has, of late, been louder than any headline. We are talking about Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, a duo who can turn a simple night at the movies into a national conversation. Rumors of distance have swirled for months, fed by packed schedules and long periods of quiet, but yesterday evening, under the cold glow of a cinema marquee, they wrote a new chapter without saying a single word. Before we unravel every detail of this delicate display, make sure you are subscribed to Turkish series stars. If you appreciate our eye for nuance, tap that like. And if you want to stand with independent storytelling, click the join button and become part of our Turkish series stars family. Your support keeps the lights up and the stories flowing. With that, step with me into the hum of a crowded mall, where a movie night became a message. They say modern celebrity is tightly choreographed, every movement mediated by publicists and strategists, each appearance plotted like a military campaign. Yet real romance rarely cares for the script. Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, who have always fought to protect the sanctity of their connection, chose the least secretive place imaginable for a reunion everyone had been waiting for. A bustling cinema at the center of a busy shopping complex. For two figures who have been the most elusive of recent seasons, surfacing mainly as subjects of speculative whispers and grainy, unverified snaps, this public outing felt deliberate, a reclaiming of ordinary life in the most ordinary of settings. There was no swarm of security carving a space through the crowd. No side door. No cloak and dagger theatrics. They walked in like any couple looking for an evening's escape, fingers intertwined, posture relaxed, the kind of easy closeness that speaks louder than declarations. Gone were the magazine-ready looks and impossibly polished ensembles. Instead, they wore comfort as a badge, soft fabrics, muted tones, and a simplicity that said connection mattered more than spectacle. What happened next wasn't scripted by any publicist. It was governed by human nature. A mall is a tempest of sound, a swirl of footsteps and voices, but the moment they crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations stumbled and then stopped. Heads turned as if pulled by gravity. The murmur spread from the entrance to the lobby, a ripple becoming a wave. Is that really them? Eyes widened, breaths caught. The shock was shared by strangers who instantly felt like an audience to a scene that might not repeat. Through it all, the pair moved with startling calm. There was no anxious scan for photographers, no hurried pace to outrun attention. They traded a small laugh, one of those light, private moments that burst like a soap bubble and vanish, leaving warmth. They held each other's gaze for a beat longer than necessary, and the world receded. In that simple exchange, you could see it. A bond tested by time and talk, pressed by distance and demands, yet steadied into something serene. If 1,000 rumors had tried to pull them apart, the way they walked expressed an answer that wasn't defensive, it was content. Their movie choice? A romantic feature, of course. If there was any doubt that they knew exactly how this would look, that detail put it to rest. Imagine finding your seat and realizing that just a few rows away sit the two people who accidentally became the protagonists of a love story the entire country once rooted for. There was a stir, a small tide of movement as people pretended to adjust coats or whisper to companions. But when the lights sank and the screen flared to life, they dissolved into the dark like everyone else. No grand gestures, no theatrics, just two silhouettes amid many, sharing the same glow. During the film, witnesses say they were quiet harmony. No fidgeting, no show. A shared laugh at a witty line, the tilt of a head to catch a whisper, a hand squeeze so subtle it could have been imagined. When the credits rolled and the soft light returned, they had that private debrief couples do, a few murmured sentences that meant everything and nothing to anyone but them. A genuine smile lit Barry's face, the kind that creases at the eyes, and Elçin answered with a look that felt like home. In that moment, the spectacle fell away, and what remained was disarmingly simple: two people enjoying being together. If the entrance was a surprise, the exit was a declaration. Word had spread. Outside, lenses waited like a wall, questions sharpened into arrows. Are the breakup whispers true? Where do you stand now? Is there a new project coming? The barrage began as they stepped into the cool air, but they carried the same soft armor. Silence, and the kind of confidence that does not need an announcement. Elçin's expression was particularly telling, serene, luminous, not the smile of someone performing but of someone certain. Beside her, Barış held that classic poise of his, protective without being possessive, creating space with his presence alone. They did not stray from one another's side, not even for a heartbeat. Then came the detail that would be replayed and analyzed like a pivotal scene. As they reached their car, Barış moved to open the door for her. In an era that often forgets small courtesies, the gesture rang out like a bell. It wasn't about chivalry for the cameras. It was about consideration, care manifested in emotion so ordinary it becomes extraordinary when done with intention. Elçin turned back, gifted him a smile that spoke in paragraphs, and settled in her seat with the grace of someone who knows the language of the person beside her. And just like that, a door became a thesis: love as attention, love as respect, love as 1,000 small choices. Now, Turkish series stars family, we turn to you. What is your reading of this quiet conversation? Is it arrogance to ignore the microphones, or is it the highest form of class to let actions speak? When oversharing is the currency of the day, does silence buy a deeper truth? Drop your thoughts below, and if you want to keep this kind of analysis alive, don't forget to hit the join button. Your support doesn't just help us, it makes space for stories that deserve more than a headline. What happened after those car doors closed? According to people close to their orbit, nothing dramatic. No frantic post-mortem of the flashes, no negotiations about who said what. They drove off with that same unhurried ease, two people leaving a routine date night as the photographer's spots still burned in the dark like after images. That calm doesn't appear out of nowhere. It is forged. It suggests a season of growth, a learned balance, a mutual decision not to let the noise in. For months, it had been said that their schedules had stretched the thread between them too thin: international commitments here, relentless sets there. The narrative painted a distance that couldn't be bridged. But a quiet evening overturned that architecture without a single press release. Within minutes, images began to spread, and social feeds did what they always do: amplified, argued, adored. Some voices were certain, the picture says everything. Others were moved by their down-to-earth ease. They watched the whole film without fuss. Their harmony hasn't dimmed. Across comment sections and fan spaces, one idea kept surfacing. Normalcy, but intentional. Not a stunt, not an accident. A choice to be seen and still remain themselves. Those who truly know them have whispered the same for years. When the days on set are long and the pressure feels like a spotlight bolted to the sky, they do not chase celebration. They look for solid ground. For them, that has never been velvet ropes and private rooms. It's a bucket of popcorn, a dim theater, a hand to hold in the dark. It is the hum of strangers who don't know your story and don't need to. Paradoxically, this gentle ordinary is what makes their romance feel rare. They're not performing a love for the public, they are living one for themselves, and sometimes we get to see the edges. So, is this the beginning of a new chapter? The evidence leans toward yes, but not the kind of chapter that's rolled out on magazine covers with exclusive interviews and glossy spreads. This chapter looks like balance. It looks like people who understand that public life and private heart can coexist if tended with care. They seem to be drawing a line around what matters and keeping it intact. They don't owe an explanation, not to the press, not to the timeline of anyone's speculation. By showing up together, by laughing in a lobby and vanishing into a story on a screen, they reclaimed authorship over their own narrative. They reminded us that love is not the answer you give a camera. It is the hand that remains in yours when the flashes fade. As we step back from the moment, the lesson clarifies. In a scene-saturated landscape, not every statement needs sound. Sometimes the most delicate symphony is played in looks and gestures, a stroll through a mall, a seat taken side by side, a door held with intention, a smile shared in the hush after credits. That's how you dispel myths without a fight. That's how you ignore the storm and keep walking. For those who worried that time and work had carved an unfixable gap, last night felt like an answer wrapped in quiet certainty. For viewers who joined us late, let's frame the evening one last time, because details matter. The entrance was public and unguarded, the attire simple, the energy unforced. The reaction was immediate, a collective intake of breath. Inside the theater, the performance was private. A text exchanged in a glance, a joke so soft only two people could hear it, the comfort of sharing a world inside a dark room. Outside, the questions came like rain on metal, relentless and loud. They absorbed it with composure and stepped around it like a puddle, choosing not to give the moment away. The parting image, the door opened, the smile returned, has already become the night's emblem. And when the car slipped into Istanbul's current, the conversation continued without the world. What happens next is not for anyone to predict, but there is a feeling in the air that the story is being written with a steadier hand than before. Maybe the lesson here is simple: privacy is power, and presence is proof. You don't have to narrate every beat to make the music felt. In a culture that pushes for captions, they delivered a picture. In a calendar crowded with events, they chose a movie night. And in a chorus of questions, they offered a confident, gentle hush. To our devoted Turkish series Stars audience, thank you for trusting us to read between the lines. If this deep dive gave you a new way to consider what you saw, show your love by subscribing, sharing, and tapping that join button to step inside our inner circle. Your support makes it possible for us to take the time, to follow the strands, to illuminate the quiet places where the truth often waits. Until we meet again, keep your ear tuned to the whispers, because in this world, silence can carry the loudest meaning, and last night, it spoke in the language of Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, a language they seem to have never forgotten. And as the credits roll on our coverage, remember the images that stayed, the glance that steadied a room, the laughter that didn't need a microphone, the unhurried walk in a place designed for hurry, the patience to let a door say what words could complicate. That is where their story felt most alive. Not in an admission or a denial, not in a headline crafted by clever hands, but in a gesture that could belong to anyone who has loved and learned to choose each other again. The city will keep talking and the timelines will keep spinning, but somewhere, beyond the chatter, two people pressed pause on the world and pressed play on a film, and in that choice, they told us everything they wanted us to know. This is Turkish series Stars, signing off with a final thought: sometimes a heart speaks best when it doesn't try at all, and sometimes a movie night is more than a date, it's a declaration. Good night from us, and until next time, keep your eyes open for the quiet scenes. They're the ones you remember.